Luke Skywalker, a character that embodies hope and compassion. A character that has stayed with me ever since I was 9 years old. A character that has helped me overcome many challenges and hopefully many more challenges to come. This is pretty much my little breakdown of his character development in A New Hope from my perspective and how I feel about it. Now, everyone else is going to have a different perspective, and that's fine. But this is mine, and I'm going to try to remember as much as I can about the impact that Luke had on me as a kid. So, it begins here. When I first saw Luke, I didn't know what to think. I wasn't even sure what I was watching at the time. This was new. I wasn't used to anything like this, and I had watched some mainly just cartoons at the time. So this was a different experience. So from what I remember, I was glued to the TV the entire time. Probably didn't comprehend a lot of what was going on because it was pretty overwhelming, which is kind of in character to Luke. Everything that happens in him in A New Hope could be overwhelming to any other person, but it didn't seem like it was very overwhelming to him. He seemed like he was living his life pretty much the same every day until one day, two droids show up and it just pretty much upends in his entire life. In a good and bad way. He wanted a different life. He wanted a life of adventure. He didn't want a life of being on the farm forever. His uncle was keeping him there for reasons he did not know, and it was frustrating him. He felt like there was something greater that he was supposed to do, and he was right. It's just he didn't know it yet. So the Force has a really weird way of doing things, and the way George Lucas wrote it, I think, is quite beautiful, because nothing quite writes a good story than a story of destiny and how things play out, how things are connected. And the way everything happens in A New Hope and the way it connects to Luke Skywalker's story and his development is, I do not get bored with it at any time. I've seen the movie, I've seen the original trilogy so many times in my 32 years since seeing it for the first time, and I never get tired of it. I can pretty much quote all the movies word for word, and I can play the whole movie in my head because I've seen it so much. Now, it's probably not perfect, of course, but that doesn't matter. My point is, his character development from just this one movie is pretty impressive when you think about it. You take a 19-year-old kid who has seen nothing other than working on a farm, fixing things, and what have you, to being the hero of the rebellion by the end of the movie and accomplishing some things that he probably never dreamt he even had the power of doing. That, any normal person would, that's pretty much impossible. But, the Force, again, has a way of rearing its head. And it was time. A lot of things happened in that movie, and it seemed like it was one thing after another in a span of maybe a few days. So, not only does he see Ben Kenobi again, not only does he have to deal with two droids, one of which shows him a recording of a princess in distress who is asking for Obi-Wan Kenobi's help, and then tricks him into removing the restraining bolt so he can run off and find said Obi-Wan Kenobi, which leads him on a wild goose chase, gets attacked by sand people, and then is found by Ben Kenobi, You see where I'm going with this? Everything's connecting. I mean, even the fact that 3PO and R2 were in an escape pod and weren't shot down because there was no life forms detected aboard. And they happened to land on Tatooine. They happened to be above Tatooine at the time for everything to be set in motion. If those two droids were shot down, that would have been the end of it. No movies whatsoever. Death Star would not have been destroyed. The rebellion would have been crushed. Luke probably wouldn't even become who he was supposed to be. But that's not the way the Force works. So instead, he ends up being the hero of the rebellion. And it's not an impossible, like, unrealistic, which it's weird to use the word unrealistic in a science fantasy film, but the character progression in the film isn't, like, not believable, if that makes sense. It's a slower progression. It's not, like, abrupt or anything. It makes sense because of how he reacts to each instance happening to him, which makes me think, and I've had this thinking for a while, that he already knew these things just by the way he reacts when Obi-Wan told him about his father. The way he reacted was not someone who would just now know about it. Like, he knew, but he didn't know. He knew his uncle was lying to him. He just went with it because he didn't have anything else to go on. Now, when he learns from Obi-Wan that his father was actually a Jedi, it made sense to Luke, so that's why he didn't react the way any normal person would. So, and then rescuing the princess with Han, and, you know, Leia and Luke being reunited, and Obi-Wan looking over and smiling and letting Vader strike him down. Obi-Wan's mission was over. That was his destiny. It's to bring the twins back together, because that's the Force was. That's what the Force does. And then that was the end. But it wasn't the end, because Obi-Wan was able to transcend through the Force and come back in a weird way so that he could help Luke with his training when he needed it. Of course he did. Because without Obi-Wan's interference when Luke had his targeting computer up about to shoot the thermal exhaust port with the proton torpedoes, Luke would have made the same mistake that Rogue Leader would have made. Or not Rogue, Red Leader. I forget his name. I usually know his name, but I forget his name. My apologies. He would not have switched his targeting computer off, because Obi-Wan told him to use the Force. And Luke trusted in the Force. Probably in the first time in that movie, he trusted in the Force. He trusted because Obi-Wan, he saw Obi-Wan die. He saw his body disappear, and yet he was hearing him somehow. So Luke knew that through the Force, Obi-Wan was speaking to him, so that helped him trust in it. And he uses the Force, makes the proton torpedoes go in the thermal exhaust port, Death Star done, blown up. That's it. It's just still amazes me to this day. And it kind of proves that even without, being anybody, which of course we learn later on that he is, a descendant of the Chosen One. He's the offspring of the Chosen One. So yes, he's going to be a bit more, talented than most people. But from that movie alone, you can look at it at the perspective that, being a nobody, you can actually accomplish great things. And I think that is an awesome thing to carry into the real world, because there's a bunch of nobodies that can become great people. There have been a bunch of nobodies that became great people. And, I became a great person, but I didn't. Did I accomplish great things? Well, not in. Depends on it's a matter of perspective. It depends on how you perceive that. Now, career wise, no, not a chance. But my personal character development has gotten a lot better because of Luke. Because I often asked myself in certain situations what Luke Skywalker would do. And I know that sounds lame to some people. That sounds like why are you like looking up to a fictional character? Because the fictional character is based off real things. The entire Star Wars mythos is based off of real world events. So that's why it's kind of easy to take the stuff from Star Wars and transfer it back to the real world because that's where it came from in the first place. Now, yes, the Force and the Jedi, all that don't exist, but the personal character qualities do. And that's what I carry with me, and that's what I aspire to be. So, that's pretty much my little breakdown and my personal feelings on A New Hope and Luke's character in that. I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but we'll see. And stick around for the next one.